For those of you who don't know, my name is Scott Talley, and I am in Houston, Texas at the headquarters of Network in Action. You know, the 10 people I admire the most in business have one thing in common, honestly, and that is they are voracious readers. They're always reading, and they're always taking time out for things like this. And I think if you look across people in business that you admire, you would find that's true also. So I really want to congratulate you for taking time out of your busy schedules to take some time. We're going to do this every month on the third Wednesday. And I just want to remind you that it is available to you as well as any employees in your organization. Network in Action, we want to do whatever we can to help make your life a little simpler and a little better. So take a bow for taking some time off from just working in the business and getting on here with us. Super excited about today. My buddy Tim Goering from Palm Beach, Florida, is with us. Tim is with the Sandler Sales Academy. And I told him I could read his fancy bio or I could just talk from the heart. But Tim has been teaching people to sell for a long time. And I'm looking forward to hearing a lot of his tips and a lot of the tools of the trade that Sandler shares with people so freely. Really, Tim. Sandler's so great about always doing things like this. But Tim was in the U.S. Naval Academy, the Marine Corps. He was president of Seaside National Bank, BNY Mellon, and CEO of MakingLuck Inc., which is my favorite company you were with, Tim. I want to hear about that. So with no further ado, Mr. Tim Goering. Tim, thank you for joining us.
All right. Well, thanks for having me. I never, when I listen to my own bio, it doesn't seem like it makes sense. I don't think I'm old enough to have done all that stuff. But if Scott says it's real, then it must be. I did email him that, so I guess it's my fault. So, you know, with 70 people on here, wow, I can't believe this. I got to think there must be some sales challenges out there. By a show of hands, who's familiar with Sandler already? Okay, good. Excellent. Excellent. So hopefully that means you all have a favorite Sandler trainer somewhere, and I'm not here to steal anybody's business. I'm a big believer that if you're doing any kind of sales training at all, it's awesome. It's a great idea. I've always been an idea thief. So with any luck, we can exchange some ideas here today. Scott, when did you want me to finish by? I like to finish right on time like a good Marine, or I would get chastised.
50 to 55 minutes, and that'll leave some time for Q&A if you don't mind.
Excellent. Excellent. I'll do that.
And Dan will moderate. If you don't mind Dan interrupting you, if some questions end up in the chat, he'll toss them out to you.
I'll keep an eye on that chat. And for any of you that want to, I don't mind being interrupted. I kind of think it's fun that way. You can use that little reaction tab. And if you raise your hand, it'll send you to the upper left of my screen, and then I'll see it right away. And I'll stop what I'm doing and call on you. That'll make it easier. Awesome. So the short version of Sandler is, it's not for everybody. The good news is most people don't practice their craft. And I say that because I mean it. And a lot of people that practice it, they read books on it and they watch videos on it. And that's a great way to do it. Information and education is fantastic. The difference at Sandler is we believe in application and modification. In other words, let's get together once a week, and for 90 minutes, let's beat each other up over concepts that we need to embrace to be good at it with our clients. So the only reason you'd need this is if you were frustrated with either getting in front of enough people, Scott and I talked about this right before the meeting, or when you finally get there, you're worried you're not saying the right stuff to advance the deal. And the concern is that means you're leaving money on the table. So with any luck, you won't need me at all, but that is the name of my company, Making Luck. It's present tense. You got to always be working on it. And I don't know a single Marine that ever said, I'm in as good a shape as I can get in. I'm as good looking as I can get. I can't get any better than I am now. So in that vein, I love this stuff. And if you don't, that's okay. If you, because you came to this one, if you want to see what I do live in action, all you got to do is email me at the end of this and tell me you're interested, and I'll send you a link. I'll show you the times at the end also. I do it 3 times a week for the sales mastery sessions. On Tuesday, I do it at 10 a.m. Eastern and at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. And on Thursdays, I do it at 1 p.m. Eastern. So there's plenty of opportunities to see me in action if you want to. And my email, just to make it easy, is makingluck@yahoo.com. So that makes it easy. MakingLuck yahoo.com. So I'm just going to get right into this. Let's make it all about you guys first. Somebody, you can either type it in chat or maybe you can volunteer it. I don't care if you just speak up. If it gets too unruly, I'll just mute everybody because I feel like I got that power. I'll lead the witnesses a little bit. I'll put some challenges out there, but I always like to customize these and start off by saying, what's hard about what you do? And then it gets really quiet. What's hard about what you do? Go ahead, Glenn. Thank you for using that hand. That makes it really easy.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I think what's hard about what I do, truthfully, is probably just getting in front of enough people and qualified people, individuals that are looking for the services that I offer.
Yeah, you said it. Getting in front of enough people. Now, you think that's a new problem? Or you think that's always been a problem?
It's always been a problem. It'll always be a problem until you learn how to overcome it.
Sure. All right, so somebody help them out. What have you tried? What works? I don't have to have all the answers, do I? I mean, I got some, but mine are long answers. How do you get in front of more people? Go ahead, Ed.
I think the biggest thing is you got to be where the people are that buy your product. So if you're selling golf balls, you probably don't hang out at the mechanic shop, or maybe you do. Go to the golf course where people buy golf balls. So kind of feel that way.
I like that. And that ties right into what Glenn was saying also. Have you guys ever heard of the gumball theory? Those old gumball machines, you put a quarter in and you twist it and the gumball comes out. What's your favorite color gumball? I like the white ones and the green ones. Somebody shout out a color. What color do you like?
Red.
Red. Okay, if I get a red one, I'm going to refer that.
Red. Red.
Red, great. Anybody like the black ones or the blue ones?
Blue's okay. Black? I've never seen black.
Yeah, they're usually licorice flavored. They're so I always like when I'm networking, I'm always thinking, what color gumball do I want? Which is exactly what that gentleman was just saying. I like the green ones and the white ones. That's a qualified prospect. So I want a network where there's a lot of green and white gumballs. If I get a red one, now I got a couple of people I can refer that to. But there's no sense in me looking at a red gumball and wishing it was white. It's just not going to happen. So I'm a big believer in qualifying. Start with the challenges that the clients have, and they've got to be emotional about their challenge because nobody's going to act on a challenge that they don't really care about, right? So I've got to dig in on that. So how do I, once I get in front of those people, what do I have to say to find out if they're qualified? Anybody got any good anecdotals?
Ask the right questions.
Ooh, yeah, I got to ask the right questions. How many questions, Kathy?
I try to keep it at 3 at a networking event.
Ooh, do you care to share your 3? I'll share my 3 if you share your 3.
Well, the top one brings lots of conversation is what brought you here today, or what brings you here today.
Okay, I like that one.
Yep. So that's the top one that usually leads to the next one is what are your challenges when you come to these things like this? And what are your goals? Just get into, that conversation about what brings you here and why.
I like that one too. What's the third one? You said you had 3.
Yeah, the third one really is about qualifying them for my business is how many employees do you have, or are you a business owner? So nice. More of a qualifying just for my niche.
Nice. I love your 3 questions and I wouldn't take those away. I'd keep those and I could use all those eventually. My 3 are a little different. When I'm networking, I'm thinking about the givers get, given it shall be given unto you. There's a million quotes around that. And the idea is I want to lay the impression. Actually, there's a great song. You guys remember the band Cheap Trick? I want you to want me. That was one of the songs. Don't worry, I won't sing a lot while we're doing this. But instead of wanting people to like me, what I decided a long time ago is it's way more beneficial if I want them to want me to like them. In other words, they're thinking, wow, I don't know what it was about Tim, but I sure wish he'd come around more because it's good for me. So my 3 questions are, who's your ideal client? And what kind of challenges do your clients have that they would need you for? And then my third zinger of a question, which I always end with is, hey, let's say I was going to introduce you to somebody. How do you want me to introduce you? And the reason I like that one last is because they never know how to do it. It's one of the challenges, right? How do I differentiate myself from the competition? How do I sound different when what I do is so similar? If it's valuable, it's probably similar to what somebody else is doing. And as soon as they don't know the answer, what do you think they ask me? The same questions. It's just like, how are you doing? Not bad. How you doing? What's going on? Oh, not much. What's going on with you? So when I say, who's your ideal client? They feel guilty and they say, who's your ideal client? I say, what challenges do your clients have? They say, what challenges do your clients have? It's like being a puppet master. How do you want me to introduce you? Well, I don't know. How do you want me to introduce you? Well, I know exactly. I used that Sandler 30-second commercial. Pattern interrupt. Right? Well, you probably already have a group you're networking with. Mini upfront contract. Number 2. Be okay if I share with you real quick why other people want to do business with me anyway? And now they get a little bit of FOMO. Oh, what do you mean other people? And their mother told them sharing was caring, so they can't wait to share. And then I hit them with 3 challenges that their clients would have, and I associate it with an emotion. So a lot of you raised your hands when you said, Sandler, why do I put an emotional word in front of the challenge?
People buy on emotion.
Yes, sir, they do. Right? They make decisions emotionally and they justify it intellectually. Emotions are contagious. So they're frustrated with this, they're worried about that, they're concerned about that. And then at the end, I throw in a hook question or a hook statement. I don't like the question, does that sound like you? Because that's a pin down. So I go with, hopefully that's not you, which is a negative reverse from Sandler, right? When I go the opposite direction, they expect me to go. Hey, hopefully you don't need what I have. Would it be okay if I share with you in 30 seconds why other people want it? They're frustrated about this. They're worried about that. They're concerned about that. It's crazy. What do you got, Ed?
Hey, I got a little different 3 questions that makes me think, because I don't ever like to say what I do until I know what they want. So who's your favorite client? Who's your most profitable client? And which one do you want more of? Because it's not always the answers you think you get when you ask those questions.
I love those questions too. Anything that makes it all about them, right? You've got to earn the right to make it about you. And at the end, if they're not asking about you, you're in front of the wrong color gumball, right? It's a one-way street. You're on it going the wrong way. You may as well just slow down, pull to the side, and get out of the way. How about any other challenges up here? Anything you want me to hit today? You probably never get like, I want to think it over from your prospects, but that's one that everybody else seems to get. Anyone? What do you got, Becky?
Well, I was going to comment on your last question, and then I'll answer your next one. One of the things I always ask people, oh, am I? No, I should be okay.
No, you're good.
Oh, all right. Is I will ask people after I've had, chat with them, and I kind of just ask people about themselves, get to know them a little bit, ask some of these questions that y'all are talking about. I tend to try to connect on a more personal basis first. Hey, do you live here? Or how long you had your business? Things like that. What I get to at the end of the conversation is, how can I help you? What should I listen for when I am talking to people in terms of how I would make a referral to you? So that's more of a referral based thing, but sort of asking, and maybe that goes with the what are your problems question, but like, what should I listen for? What are some keywords?
I love that. And listening
when I'm
is
talking
hard.
to other people.
Listening is hard. Nobody's good at it. Turns out the word silent and the word listen have the same letters in different order. I learned that from watching the Da Vinci Code movie, but I don't really know what it's called. There's a cool name for it. But you said one word in there that I really focused on, which is the word help. I try to leave help, convince, educate, explain out of my vernacular when I'm dealing with other human beings. And the reason I do that is because I'm looking for equal business stature. I don't want to take the high status and put them in low status. And as soon as I say I help people, what I'm saying is I'm really smart and good and expensive, and I'm going to explain and educate you. I don't want to put them in that situation, nor do I want them to talk down to me. So the beginning of equal business stature is I work with people. And it's a simple thing. I'm just nitpicking, Becky. I mean, if I go to
that's all right.
If I go to 100 websites, 95 of them are going to have help on there somewhere.
Right.
And I just cut it out because I don't want to be like everybody else.
Yeah. I think usually it's more about, I mean, that's one thing, but I think it's much more about asking them what to listen for. That helps to make a good referral. So off of your list, so I own a public relations and communications firm, long selling cycle in what we do. And that's just the challenge that we have. And I think it'll go with send me something and maybe proposals with no commitment. So those are some of the things that we struggle with. We don't have like a widget that we sell as a service, professional service.
Nice. By the way, there's a great Sandler book out there called Selling Professional Services. And it's available on audible.com and it's available on Amazon. So you don't need Tim. Spend $12 on the book. Enjoy yourself. If you buy them 3 at a time on Audible, here's what I believe about that. Information and education will only take you so far. Only with application and humble modification are you going to see transformation and ultimately domination or relaxation. Depends on what you're driving towards. I'm 56. So I'm more in line with the relaxation than the domination at this stage of my career. But there was a time when I was into that too. So what's the problem with think it over or send me something? What do you think that really means?
Well, you're leaving it in their hands.
I am leaving it in their hands. Anybody ever get ghosted after they said to you, I'll think it over and get back to you, or send me something?
Isn't that more of just a polite no, though?
It might be. It might be a polite no. I don't know how familiar you guys are with disc communication. You'll see my disc style is IS up there. But Ds won't generally, those are the folks that are really direct. They get to the point. They aren't going to say, I want to think it over. They're just going to say no. They're refreshing. But when an I says, I want to think it over, what do you think they really mean? Why would I say I want to think it over? I'm an I, so I know this one cold.
They probably said not right now.
Yeah, they say not right now, but why do they say that instead of just saying no?
Is it a passive way?
They want all the information.
Yeah. Well,
They just want that free consulting. But I's, this is me in every relationship I was in, right? I like to break up with people, but I still want them to like me. And that's my biggest fear, right? Because I don't want everybody else in town to hate me. Now that's the I's. How about the S's? When an S says I want to think it over, what are they going to do?
Overthink it.
Overthink it. Well, that's kind of a C. They're going to analyze the crap out of it. Those S's, that's the kind of they're the people they're very people oriented. They're slower paced and they're driven by consensus. So when an S says, I'm going to think it over, what they really mean is I'm going to run it by my whole team. I'm going to make sure that nobody's going to be disappointed if I spend money with you, right? Or at a minimum, I'm going to run this by my family and make sure if I'm going to network with these folks that I can do it at night, that my spouse isn't going to be angry with me, right? And those C's are going to analyze everything about it. So sometimes when people say, I want to think it over, they're serious. Send me something. Well, what's that mean? Right. And what we call an upfront contract in Sandler is all about aligning expectations. If I'm going to send you something, I want to align expectations when I'm going to send it and when you're going to look at it. And I want to talk to you right after you look at it, not so that I can put pressure on you, but so it's fresh in your mind and I can get a solid yes or a solid no. Right. So I want to align expectations around when you're going to look at it and when we're going to talk next. And if you blow me off on when we're going to talk next, hey, maybe what should I do then? Should I text you? Should I email you? Should I call you? What should I do? And that's the hard part. So maybe what I'll do now is I'll overview. Well, I'll give you a choice, which is going to be hard with 97 people on here now. I can just keep taking things from the field one at a time and just tell you how I'd handle it. Or I can overview the entire Sandler system in 15 minutes and then go to that piece.
I like that idea.
Overview? All right, let's do that. I don't know who said that, but man, we got a leader amongst us. So let's roll with that. So before I show you my system, Anybody care to share with me what their system is? Anybody got a perfect system? And by the way, if somebody knows the Sandler system, you can just shout it out and I'll skip that slide. Anyone? Excellent. How about this? Qualify, pitch, close, chase. Right? That's most people. All right. I'm going to find out if I've got a qualified person, and I'm going to pitch them. I'm going to generate some interest. I'm going to gain some understanding. Maybe I'm going to throw all my features and benefits at them and see if it fits. When should I discuss fees? Somebody want to help me out there? When should I talk about how much it's going to cost?
I say up front.
Oh, I like up front, or definitely preemptive strike, because the reality is, if you're talking a lot about your features and benefits and what you're going to do, and you haven't mentioned how much it's going to cost, isn't that what they're thinking about anyway? Right. So I like to know when I'm going to do it. So where I do it is right after I find out if they've got a challenge that my product or service is going to relieve. That's when I wade into finding out if they're willing and able to spend the time and the money and the energy to make this problem go away. Anybody got a bulletproof close? I like to collect closing lines. The impending event close. Price goes up on Monday. The assumptive close. Whoa, when were you hoping to start? Right, all those have been around for a while. By the way, that's what I loved about David Sandler when I found him, is he was a real student of the game. His belief was collect ideas from everybody, modify them, make them your own, sell them to other people. What a great business plan. How about this one? How about handling objections? Anybody got a bulletproof way to handle every objection? I love it when I get in front of
AAA is the way: acknowledge, answer, and ask.
Ooh, I love it when I learn something new. Hang on a second. Got to find a pen now. Will you put that in chat? Acknowledge.
Yeah, I'll be happy to, brother. Yep.
I'd never have heard that, oddly. And I'm a student of the game. I like feel, felt, found. That's my favorite, which is empathy. That's what feel. I can't imagine how you must feel. And then felt, wow, consensus. And you're not the only one that brings a problem like that to me. And then I tell a little story that has an ask at the end. So it's very similar to your AAA. But now I got triple F and AAA, and I like acronyms because I'm a knucklehead Marine at heart, and that's the only way I can remember stuff. So why do you think people roll with this kind of a system instead of a nice, tight system?
By tight, do you mean canned responses?
I mean, knowing exactly where you're going all the time, so you can do a preemptive strike on every issue that might come up.
Who's saying I don't know where I'm going all the time?
What's that?
Who's saying I don't know where I'm going all the time?
Well, you just met. And if you do, I would say you're in the top 1 percentile of human beings. If you
sorry, I'm not trying to be rude. I'll turn my camera on. The acknowledge, answer, ask thing is just a methodology. It's adaptable to any situation that you're going to find yourself in. That's the power of it. It's all you have to remember is acknowledge that they're not the only one with the concern, right? Oh, the price is high. You know what? You're not the first one to bring that to my concern. Answer the question. The reason why my price is so high is because I pack it with value and I actually do what I say I'm going to do, or whatever variation you have there. And then you ask a follow-up question. What makes you feel that price is so high?
Nice. I love that, man. I love it. Our version of that is soften, answer, and reverse. Very similar. The softener is, wow, that's a great question. That's really the mundane one. Or, everybody seems to ask that. That's a little better softener. I mean, just acknowledging I'm validating that what they just asked me is real, right? And then the answer is, so even if they said, how much does this cost, right? Hey, thanks for getting right to the point. There's my soften, right? $12,000 a year. There's my answer. Is that close to what you had in mind? There's my reverse. And by the way, I've got 15 or 20 different versions of questioning strategies that are some sort of softener and reverse, like the magic wand, or let's pretend, or the stop and start, or the you start technique. Anybody know the you start technique?
I'm not familiar with that one.
Hey, thanks a lot for asking. You probably have some ideas, and I've got some too. Would you mind sharing yours? So I just told them, I put their agenda before mine. You probably have some ideas. I've got some too. Sometimes they'll start. And when you say you start, you probably got some ideas. So this works with your spouse too. When they say, hey, where do you want to eat dinner tonight? Hey, thanks a lot for asking. You probably got some ideas, and I got some too. By the way, you're allowed to hate my ideas as long as I can push back on yours. Sound fair? And they say, sure. You say, okay, you start. David Sandler's daughter invented that. You guys know those knock knock jokes? You know, knock knock, who's there? Somebody start a knock knock joke for me.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Orange.
So I'll stop you there so we don't even have to go through with it.
Yeah,
But I just demonstrated the you start technique. I set it up by saying, hey, you guys know those knock knock jokes? You know, knock knock, who's there? Somebody throw one out. It's funny. I don't know who Kenneth Graham is, but I love his quote. The single strongest human instinct is to impart information. We can't wait to talk. The second strongest human instinct is to resist that information. So the whole idea of Sandler is ask better questions to get them talking 70% of the time, and you only talk 30% of the time with your soften answer in reverse or your AAA or your feel, felt, found, whatever techniques you're using. But they're all tactics that can be learned. The problem with most people is they don't have a system. And if you don't have a system, then chances are the buyer is going to have a system. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you walk into Nordstrom because your wife or your husband told you to buy a new shirt, right? And while you're in there, the salesperson comes up to you and says, can I help you? What do you say when a salesperson says, how can I help you?
I'm just looking.
No, thanks. Just looking.
Just looking. That's the buyer system number one. Lying sounds a little harsh nowadays. I don't want to trigger anybody, but they mislead on their intent, right? You're the same thing you do on you never want to tell a salesperson, you know what I need? I need some life insurance. You know what I need? I need a good networking group, and I don't care what it costs, right? Nobody starts with that. They always say, well, I don't really know if I need this, but why don't you tell me what you got anyway? And then I'll think about it and get back to you. That's everybody's shtick. First they lie, then they cheat. Because somebody said this earlier, unpaid consulting is awesome because it's knowledge gathering, right? At the Naval Academy, it was on our logo, Inscientia Tridens, with knowledge, sea power, right? The more we know, the more intel we have, the more power we have. And then we can use that against people. These are the three things that get you kicked out of the Naval Academy: lie, cheat, steal. They'll shop your stuff. If you give them unpaid consulting and they get the price out of you, now they've got a quote they can use against everybody else, and doggone it, they'll do that unless you make it against the rules, right? And that's what we want to do, is make it against the rules. Because the fourth phase of their buyer-seller dance is they go into the witness protection program, and you can never find them again. That's when you get ghosted. Right? They lie, cheat, steal, and then they hide, which is in direct contrast to what we want to do. Right? We want to tell them all our cool features and benefits and qualify them and close them. And they want to lie and cheat and steal and evade and hide. Crazy. So what Sandler came up with is this really cool system that I just am in love with. It's funny because I bought my Sandler franchise 9 years ago, not having been Sandler trained. I did read the book. By the way, the name of the book is You Can't Teach a Kid to Ride a Bike in a Seminar. The title kind of says it all. You can go to a seminar, you can attend this hour with me, but I guarantee you that you won't be able to use it after this hour. Right? You can watch a great video on riding bikes, but at the end of the day, you don't want to ride your bike with me. I ride a unicycle, and I'll ride my mountain bike down a ski slope in the winter because I think it's fun, right? So what Sandler, I'll outline the system for you. This is kind of the normal, the inside the wheel there, but we've got to engage their attention somehow. Then we got to qualify them, and then we got to close them. And so there's a lot that goes into communication. I'll go into each one of these modules a little bit, but this light blue here that I'm showing up on the screen right now, there's a lot of technique to this. So first we got to figure out how to engage them. And we do that by communicating the entire way through the system, but with an upfront contract. And all an upfront contract is aligning expectations, because the definition of disappointment is premeditated, unmet expectations. In other words, they had an idea, we had an idea, somebody's idea doesn't get met, and therefore they're disappointed. Right? To assume that they don't have an idea in their head is a huge mistake. So once we're sure that we've got that we've opened up right, we go into qualifying. We use the pain funnel to find out if they've got a challenge that our product or service can resolve. We find out if they're willing and able to invest the time and the money and the energy to make it work. And then we find out if all the right decision makers are sitting at the table before we present. And even if they say yes, we have to post sell it. And what our belief is in the post sell is that even when people say yes, they oftentimes have buyer's remorse. And so we need to make that okay, right? So that they don't back out after they've said yes. Anybody ever think they closed a deal and then the client even said yes, and then they don't do it? Or they pay you, and then a month later they want their money back? Both of those hurt my feelings, right? Because I'm an IS. Right? And the reality is it can be avoided if we talk about it in advance, or at least it can be mitigated. I don't want to say this is a perfect system because it's not. All I want to do is give myself a slight edge. And I want to set the stage for next steps, right? They probably have an expectation of what happens next, and you might too. And if they're different, somebody's going to wind up disappointed. And then I want to set the stage for referrals. Most people don't do this. In some people's businesses, the single best time to ask for a referral is at the closing because they're at their peak happiness. What I like to do is just set the stage. I don't want you just to love this Sandler Training thing. I want you to love it so much that you're bragging about it, because then I don't have to do prospecting. I like talking to the coalition of the willing, people that like to sell, people that know that practice is good for you. So I'll kind of overview the entire thing here for you in just a few slides, and then I'll open it back up for questions and go anywhere you want. That's the beauty of Sandler's. When you get really good at it, you move from knowing to owning. And what that really means, to make it overly easy, is if I gave you a letter in the alphabet like S, you automatically know what letter comes before it and what letter comes after it without having to sing it. So some of you, you know where you're going all the time. I didn't. My whole plan was, if they like me, they'll do business with me. And I was partners with a guy for a long time. His plan was, he called it close by submission. In other words, I'll just keep talking until they give up. I'm like, man, you're killing me. I didn't even like the meetings I was in. It was a little bit embarrassing. So here's a system number. This is the system. It used to be in the Sandler submarine. Now we turned it into the wheel because we're trying to be current. You got to always be making your stuff better. And that's what I love about it. The idea is there's got to be a systematic way of doing it. Now, the Marine aviator and Tim Goering really embraced the idea of you got to have a system. I didn't have a system. I was just going on relatability, and that'll only get you so far. In the Marine Corps, if you're starting an engine in an airplane, you knew you put the igniters on first and then you add fuel, and you never do it backwards. You don't add fuel and then spark it. That's how you get a bomb, not an engine starting. Same thing in a selling system. First, you find the challenge, then you present. You don't present to unqualified prospects. But we all get that question right out of the gates. What do you do? And how much does it cost? And I got to use that AAA that I just learned, right? I've got to say, hey, that's a great question. Everybody asks me that. Would it be okay if I share with you why everybody else does it? And then maybe we can see if we want to continue. I have to get permission. Permission-based, consent-based selling. So there's lots of ways to talk about bonding and rapport. We go really deep on DISC. We go really deep on body language and tonality and not just the words. This isn't scripting. Only 7% of communication is scripting anyway. We go very deep on primary sensory dominance, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and how to communicate with those people. We love transactional analysis. Spend 70% of the time in your parent ego state, specifically your nurturing parent ego state, creating an environment where it's okay to say no and it's okay to say yes, and where you respect their feelings and you put their agenda first. All that comes from your nurturing parent. And only about 30% of our time in our adult ego state, where all that logic resides. Because what I hear is what I know about logic. Logic doesn't sell. Right? Never in the history of the words calm down or the words calm down ever calmed anybody down. So I got to go to my nurturing parent and create an environment where they can feel insecure in their child ego state down here, right? And then and only then will they come up and say, okay, what you have is logical. Let me go get permission from my parent ego state where they do a needs analysis and prioritize it. And then I'll make a decision. The sale is made in the adult ego state, but you've got to invite them to visit the other ones psychologically before they're going to make a decision. Believe it or not, that's like a 6-hour session right there. And I just said that in about a minute. So we started off by aligning expectations with a good, solid upfront contract. Right? And the upfront contract is just getting rid of mutual mystification. And what mutual mystification is, when you think you know what's going on and I think I know what's going on, but neither of them are right. The easiest way to visualize that is hold your palm out in front of you like this and imagine there's a number 6 in there. You're sure it's a 6. You just wrote it on your hand. But if somebody's sitting across from you looking at the 6, they think it's a 9 and they're right. They're not wrong. So you can argue about it. You can explain, you can educate, you can convince, you can help them see it by turning your hand around, or you can acknowledge that people have different ideas. I use a little rhyme to remember the upfront contract. Appreciation in time, your agenda, then mine. No and yes are both fine, and agreement on the rhyme. Every time I want to remember something, I say it in a Southern accent. I don't have any idea why. It slows it down, makes it easier. So I appreciate you inviting me in today. How much time do we have? That's appreciation in time. Your agenda, then mine. Hey, you probably had some things that you're looking for, and I'd love to show you what I have. Your agenda first, then mine. If for whatever reason you're not into it, no thank you is totally appropriate. Right? And if I can't help you, I'm just going to extend you the same courtesy and say I can't help you. But if you're inspired, we'll talk about next steps. No and yes are both fine. And then agreement on the rhyme is just like, make sense? And as soon as they say yes, I do a you start technique on them. So what brought you in? What are you looking for? And then when they start, I go right to the pain funnel and I do some power listening because I already know my next 9 questions. Really? Whatever challenge you just said, tell me a story about that. Give me an example. Be more specific. Man, how long has that been going on? What'd you try to do about it? Doggone it. Why do you think that didn't work? All right, what are the consequences of doing nothing? Man, how's that going to make you feel? So from your perspective, is this something you wanted to fix, or is this just, you just wanted to kind of vent about it a little bit? So in other words, when I know my 9 questions I can't remember who was making the point, you know where you're going. I know where I'm going too. I know all my 9 questions. Now, if you're cheating and reading the slide, you notice I didn't read them exactly because that's part of the application and modification. I've got to make it my own, right? So you got to make the questions your own. You got to make it applicable to your sale because I want to get inside their brain and find out, are they trying to relieve pleasure or relieve pain now or in the future? Or are they trying to receive pleasure now or in the future? All right, that's the trick. I've got to find out what makes them tick. Now, what keeps the system going are all of our questioning strategies. So I talked to you about the you start technique, the start and stop technique, the magic wand technique. Hey, thanks a lot for asking that. If I handed you a magic wand and you could wave it in the air and this networking organization was exactly what you wanted, what would you be looking for? And then they tell you the story and you just keep going in the pain funnel. Really? Why that? When you're genuinely curious and sometimes skeptical, like really, I didn't think you'd say that. When you go skeptical on somebody, they'll justify why they said what they just said. Now, I was a Marine intel officer, so I was a spy once. And I can tell you is, if you're going to be a good salesperson, be a great spy. All you're doing is data collection when you're qualifying. Give me information. Tell me what your challenges are. Tell me what you're wishing for. What are your hopes and what are your dreams? When I have all that, I can put it on a corkboard and then draw that yellow yarn to it, and we'll know exactly who committed that crime in Idaho. That's how they do it. That's how we do it, right? So if I keep my questioning strategies tight, then I can use things like negative reverse selling. Anybody ever heard of negative reverse selling? Some of you guys are Sandler trained. This is reverse psychology, right? And all we're doing with reverse psychology is we start off with the premise, wherever you are emotionally is okay. And I'm going to back it up from there. So if you say, let's do it, instead of saying, let's do it, I'm going to say, yeah, I'm always curious. What made you love it? Because then they'll reinforce in their mind why they're saying yes. People don't argue with their own opinion. Get them to tell you what their opinion is, and they win the argument, and you win the sale. You don't have to be the hero of the story. You just want to make the sale. If they say, well, I'm interested, instead of saying, what's it going to take to get you all the way? I'm going to say, sometimes when people say they're interested, what they really mean is, I'm just being nice. And then they'll justify why they're interested. If they're like, well, you can tell me what you got, but I probably won't buy anything, I'll just say, it's all right. So a lot of times when I tell people what they have, they say, no, thank you. And I want you to know that's totally okay. That's why I said it up front. When I'm less enthusiastic than they are, and they want to be a contrarian still, remember what Kenneth Graham said, the single strongest human instinct is to impart information, and the second strongest human instinct is to resist it. When I tell them, you must comply, they want to resist. When I tell them, resisting's okay, they're like, well, then I'm going to comply. My older brother and I argued about everything. Right? The sky's blue. No, Timmy, actually, it's a reflection of the rainbow. Dad said yes. Well, then let's not do it. Right? It's unbelievable how people will take the opposite side. And, I even remember that Seinfeld episode when they said, the soup Nazi said, no soup for you. As soon as they say no soup for you, we want the soup more, right? They do it on all those stupid coin commercials. Limited supply, you can only buy 3. Well, then I want 6. I'll call back with my wife and get 3 more. It's crazy what people will do to resist. And even if they're negative, if they say, no, I'm absolutely not doing this, I'll say, that's fine. I said that up front. I'm just curious, though. Are you telling me there's no set of circumstances under which you'd ever consider doing business? Why not? I want to get a no, and I don't even know anybody else that can do it. So I'm thinking negative reversing can be my best friend. Now, we're calling this the investment step now, but we used to call it the budget step. It's never about money. Everybody thinks it's all about money, but it's not just about money. I'll give you an example. The cheapest childcare is definitely on Craigslist. Why don't people go to Craigslist for childcare?
They want to see their children again.
Yeah, exactly. You don't know.
So you mean there's more to it than money? The cheapest heart surgery is definitely not in the United States. You can go to any other foreign country and get heart surgery. Why don't people go down to Mexico for their heart surgery? Why don't people search for the cheapest heart surgeon? Because there's something else to it. And we like to think that there's, it's not just the money, it's the time that you're going to have to put into it. It's the effort that you're going to have to put into it. And I'm going to find out in this step if they're willing and able to spend the time and the money and the effort. And I need to know exactly what I'm going to say to wade into this. So if I just did that whole pain funnel and I found out they've got a challenge that's been around for a while that they tried to fix on their own with no luck, at the end of it, I'm going to say, cool. Now comes the hard part. I really appreciate you sharing all that with me, but we got to talk about the time and the money and the effort you're going to have to put in. You're going to have to invest to make this problem go away. Which one do you want to talk about first? When I give them multiple choice, no matter which one they choose, I'm going to go the opposite using a negative reverse. So if they're like, well, let's talk about the money, I will say, oh, I thought for sure you were going to talk about how hard this is. And then they'll justify why they want to talk about the money, or they'll switch to the effort. If they want to talk about money first, I'll talk about money first. But then I'm going to go to time and the effort. If they're still qualified, in other words, they're willing and able to invest, in your case, the money, but then the time to show up in the networking event and the effort, they got to show up prepared to be a giver, not just a receiver, then they're going to get a lot out of what you guys do. Then I got to go to the decision-making step, which is where I find out who else besides you is involved in this decision. Maybe their boss is paying for it. Maybe their spouse has got to give them permission. I need to decide what exactly is your process. Are you going to look at a bunch of different networking events and then decide? Are you going to get my price and then shop it? I'm going to find out when do they want to make a decision so that I'm not presenting to somebody that's not even going to do anything for a year. I'm going to find out where in the organization, where do they like to meet, or where in their organization is the decision make. And I'm going to find out how, let's say everybody doesn't agree. How's the ultimate decision made? I'm going to find out all this stuff before I present. I haven't even presented yet. Now, when I present, I'm only going to present to my features and benefits that are applicable to the challenges that I discovered in the pain funnel and nothing else. So if they didn't bring it up, I'm not going to present to that. Now, when I do my presentation, after I've thrown a couple out, I'm going to do a trial close. I'm not a statistician, but I had a client that they were an assessment company. And what I learned from dealing with them is that when you give people a scale of 1 to 5 or 1 to 10, then it allows them to be wishy-washy, but still gives you the power to ask the questions. So as soon as I feel like they've got some interest, I do a trial close on them. We call it the thermometer close. Hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being, I'm not really interested, and 10 being, I'm ready to go. Well, where do you think you are? No matter what they say, I'm prepared. If they say anything 1 to 5, I know they're not really interested. I probably didn't do the pain funnel. I didn't do the investment step, or I didn't do the decision step. If they say 6 or 7, then I'm going to do a negative reverse on them. But really, I thought for sure you were going to be lower than that. Why 6 or 7? Why so high? And then they'll justify why they're a 6 or 7, and mentally they'll move to an 8. If they say 8 or 9, I'm going to say, great. Some people do it at an 8 or 9, but it sounds like I'm missing something. What am I missing? I'm going to back it up just a little bit. They'll tell me what I'm missing, and I can address it. And even if they say 10, I'm going to say, congratulations, that's awesome. I love it when people have conviction. I'm just curious, though, what got you to a 10? And then they'll justify why they're there. So there's the whole system, soup to nuts. I already covered the post-sell, which is where I'm going to hit these 3: buyer's remorse, ground rules for the next steps, right? And obtain permission to ask for referrals in the future. So in order to do that, we call this the BAT triangle. Your behaviors, what you do on a daily basis, is right here. Your attitude, we do a lot of head work training, feeling good about yourself and your company and the current market conditions. We're rolling into a recession this year. We need to decide right now what our attitude is going to be about that recession. If I'm wrong, it'll be easy to be happy. But if I'm right, then we want to be ready. And then the bottom one here is loaded with all kinds of other triangles. This is where we discuss that technique, just like Scott and I were talking about in the beginning. Either not getting in front of enough deals, which is prospecting behavior, or when you get there, you're not saying the right stuff, which is technique. And that's why we spend 90 minutes a week for about a year to get through it. And we've got modules on just prospecting. For what you guys do, I would say LinkedIn is your best friend. Networking has always been my best friend. I've always told people the problem with networking is it works. If you go to 2 networking events a week and you do that for 3 months and you're ready with your 3 questions and you be a giver and you know how to clearly articulate how you're different than the competition, you are going to have so many leads to follow up on that you're going to have a hard time finding time to network. That's how good networking is. But most people do networking all wrong. They sit there and they talk to their friends. They sit there and look for leads for themselves. They hang out at the bar or at the buffet, or they hide in the bathroom. And if you're going to do networking, by all means, do it right. So I will open it back up for questions so that you guys can challenge me on anything in our last 10 minutes. And while I do that, I'll leave this up on the screen. As a matter of fact, I'll put this in chat as well. Let me see. Let me take it down for a second. That way I can cheat and put it in chat, and then I'll put it back up. That way, if any of you would like to see what I just showed you in action, all you got to do is pick a time that works for you and then email me and say, hey, Tim, I would like to come and see that Thursday session. And then what I will do is I will send you that link that's up there. I'm not going to send that to you now because that is my active client link. And but I'll send you that link right away, and that'll allow you to sign up for it and make it easy for me to send you the information ahead of time that we're going to cover. But here's my ask. Never do anything without getting an IOU. If you want to attend a 90-minute free Sandler session, you may do so. And all you owe me is a very quick meeting to say, no, thanks, Tim, take me off your prospecting list, which I'll do. Or I want to know more. And then we can have a serious meeting and you know exactly what I'm going to do to you. Solid upfront contract, paying phone, budget step. I already showed you all the tricks, so you can call me out on it. So, questions?
Good stuff. A quick little reminder, not only a couple valuable things in the chat, it has been suggested that we make sure that everyone who would like to be in touch with others on this call can do so. So there's a form up. If you'll just put any information in there, but please recognize we're going to share that with anyone that does put their info in that form, and then as well as Tim's post for future dates for training. Great, Tim. Great stuff. Who's got questions? While we're waiting for them to think about it, I have one. What's the best way to ask for referrals, Tim, when the time's right, in your opinion?
I love that question. So I've got 4 catalysts for asking for a referral. So this is a whole class, so I'll give you the quick version, right? Number 1, if they say, how's it going or what's going on? That means, Timmy, muster the courage to ask for a referral. So I just tell them a story. I know that we are a storytelling species. We've been telling stories around campfires and drawing stick figures on cave walls since the beginning of time. So instead of saying, it's great, man, what's going on with you? I say, man, I'm struggling. And that's the situation. I got a client and they've got a sales team, and the sales team, what they really need is a systematic way of closing deals. So here's the action we took. I invited him to see a session. And, the result I was hoping was that the guy would say, let's do it, but he didn't. What would you do if you had a sales team that was struggling? It's called the hot potato. I make my problem theirs, and I allow them the opportunity to rescue me because I am now officially struggling using Cartman's drama triangle. I'll change my screen real quick. Right? When I present myself as the victim, then they're going to want to rescue me, and I let them do that. So once they're done rescuing me, I say, I don't suppose you know anybody like that, but they've just told me a story. So I know they know somebody like that, or it's them. The third way is if somebody pays me a compliment. So somebody's like, Tim, this Sandler Training is the best stuff I ever seen. Then I know that they want me to ask them for a referral. So I say, thank you, gratitude, right? I don't suppose, if you know anybody else that isn't giving what I'm giving you, I'd consider it a personal favor if you'd introduce me. Now I've got a whole string of things I'm going to do next, right? Send them an email, tell them a story, that kind of thing. The fourth way is if they don't pay me a compliment, I ask for one. Here's how I do it. It's subtle, right? And here's what it is. Hey, we've been working together for about a year now. I'm always curious, like, what would you say is the most impactful thing that we've done for you since we were working together? And when they pay me a compliment, I do the same shtick. If they don't pay me a compliment, now's not a good time to ask for a referral. They don't like you. So take the hint. So there it is, Scott. There's an art to asking for referrals, but then I don't want just that name and phone number. I want them to call ahead. I want them to be able to relay a story. And if possible, I want them to introduce me in person, because all those things are going to increase my odds of closing the deal.
Good. Other questions?
Tim, would you put that link back up that you took down? You said you was going to put it back.
Oh, I'm
Please.
sorry. I did not realize that I did it. I put it in chat as well, so you can copy it out of chat, cut and paste it. I'm not a big retyper. So when you pick a time that you want to attend and see one of these, I generally have about 40 people in there. So we're doing networking at the same time. This week, for example, we're talking about the sales process. What do you do? I was a big believer in the 3-meeting close, right? So what do you do in the first meeting? What do you do in the second meeting? What do you do in the third meeting? Once you email me, tell me which one you're going to attend. I'll send you this link. It'll take you to my website. You'll sign up for the class, and then you'll be good to go. But I just don't want to hand that out to everybody, or I'll have so many people in there. I won't know who's a client and who's just taking a look. Ed, what do you got? Thank you for using that hand. That makes it really easy.
So, hey, Tim, so just a thing. So I've been a sales guy myself my entire life. How many times your wife tell you to quit selling to her?
She never did until I had Sandler. And my kids call me out on it the most because I started using it on them. All right. So they'd bring a problem to me and I'd be like, hey, that sounds like a real problem. Can we talk about that for a minute? You probably got some ideas. I got some too. And they would say, quit doing it to me. and all you got to do is be ready for it. Like, what part do you want me to do where I don't appreciate your opinion? I don't put your agenda first. I don't make it okay for you to say no. You know, I don't get permission to push back if I don't like your idea. I just pretend like I like it anyway, or I don't get your buy-in on that. As long as you can defend the concept of aligning expectations, it's a win. And then I think the trick, Ed, for me was I just shut up and I listen more because I got questions. And that pain funnel, by the way, works great with kids. Instead of saying, how was school today? You can be like, hey, what's the funniest thing that happened at school? And they're like, nothing. And you're like, come on, something funny happened. That's me. Remember, I told you, stay curious, stay skeptical. All right. And then when they answer me, I'm like, really? Tell me more about that. Give me an example. Be more specific. How long has that kid been eating paste? Man, what'd you try to do to get him to stop? What are the consequences of doing nothing? And then they think I care. It sounds shallow when I say it like that. But if you fake it till you make it, you'll find out that caring is meaningful and you'll do it more.
Glenn?
Somebody had a question, but they just took their hand down. I apologize. Go ahead, Glenn.
Yeah, that was me. That was Tim. I really wanted to just say thank you. You know, honestly, thank you. I really enjoyed this run through of Sandler. My firm actually teaches on Sandler, so you know, I'm definitely familiar with it. But I do have a question though. So, you know, with all the different aspects of Sandler, the different pieces that go into it, how do you kind of like help somebody kind of receive it all? Because it's a lot, you know what I mean? Like you went through a lot in a short period of time, you really did. And then also, if you can give me a story of maybe one of your biggest success stories from Sandler that you had a client, you know, encounter where they're like, man, this really turned my business around.
All right. Well, let me handle the first one first. I think of it, I put everything to a parable, right? You've heard the saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. What Sandler taught me is it's not about making people buy what you have. Your job is not to make them do it. Your job is to make them thirsty. And some of it is story selling, Glenn. If I tell stories about other people that had great success with this, and my favorite stories is I love getting a sales guy in their early 20s, right out of college, or better yet, no college at all, like a plumbing company, right? And all I got to do is at a plumbing company is teach them the upfront contract when they get to your porch. Be considerate of their time, look them into the eye, ask them what's going on, pretend like you care instead of just marching in and fixing their toilet. And then they'll refer you to all their friends. So when you get somebody in their 20s, and I've got multiple clients like this now that I'm on year 9, that embrace the Sandler system and find out that if you exercise the system, you increase your chances of succeeding phenomenally. And one of the things you do, by the way, it's not bulletproof, but if I'm going to make 100 calls, instead of going for 10 yeses, I'm going to go for 90 no thank yous, right? Let me tell you why you don't need training, right? You're not frustrated about getting in front of enough people. You're not worried about what you're going to say because you already nailed it. Hopefully everything's okay in your world. You heard me do that in my 30-second commercial. When you go for no, they want to say yes. There's a book out about that, by the way. All right, go for no. But I've got multiple clients that were making less than 100,000 when they started with me that are millionaires now. I am not a millionaire. Now, I gave $2 million away in my divorce. That might be why, but I make great money and I only work Tuesdays to Thursdays. So it's not a bad lifestyle. I got nothing to complain about, but I love when I see people live a better life. And by the way, that's the biggest compliment I get. Not, I'm making more money. The biggest compliment I get is I've got better relationships with the people I care about because I learned how to listen and I learned how to be more considerate. That's the best compliment, Glenn.
Good stuff.
Thanks a lot, Tim. Thank you, man.
You bet.
Anyone else? We're right at 4:00. Anybody else have a question? Julie, go ahead.
No question, but I do want to let you know that I'm going to have to watch this over and over. I've done sales for 30 years and marketing, and I just really appreciated what you had to say today and got me thinking again. So thank you so much, Tim.
Thank
I
you,
want to
Julie.
follow that up, Julie. I've been metaphorically eating what I kill all my adult life. It's the only way I know how to do business is to go out and earn something on straight commission. But it's such a nice refresher. I'm sorry there wasn't more content here.
Yeah.
No, but on that note, let me make that easy for you. If I can get the screen share back here, just so you know, if you go to the site and you log in, right under National Virtual here in the top right-hand corner, you guys can see my screen. Give me a thumbs up. If you will, this is the speakers each month. So next week on January 25th, 3:00 Central, Jerry Foster is talking about building a brand for sales mastery. But if you'll notice, along the lines of what Tim said, every quarter we're focusing on lifestyle. So next month in February, an athlete sessions is talking about how to fuel your body for productivity and energy. So the sales mastery next month, you cannot miss this. This guy is the best I've ever seen at LinkedIn. Not a second. I hope nobody's doing LinkedIn. I'm going to hurt anybody's feelings, but those are always published on the site. And then when you want to catch a replay, you just come here to click the video library. So there's some great topics that we've covered already. And Tim's will be up here in short order the next few days. So before we get off.
One more point, Scott, real quick. You can always go to my LinkedIn page, and I publish a video every Monday, a 2-minute segment on one topic. I just started the objection handling topic. If you email me or message me in LinkedIn with an objection, I'll handle it the next week. So you can watch little 2-minute segments until you're sick of me.
Great, Tim. Thank you for that. And again, just a reminder, if you'd like to receive the list of everyone on here today, please be sure and fill out that Google form there. Tim, I don't know how we thank you enough. I don't know if it was just your name recognition that we had our largest attendance ever, but we'll take it between the combination of a great speaker and everybody wanting to get off on the right foot in January. You were the perfect person for the perfect time. So thank you very much for volunteering to help us out here.
Absolutely. I'm happy to do it. I appreciate everybody showing up. And if you ever want to deep dive on any of those topics, I'm happy to come back.
Thank you so much. And thank all of you for your time here today. Have a great rest of the week. Thank you.